Hey everybody, I've put together a short video to help you with the next 2-hour staff enrichment day, which will be Monday, April 8th, which is the day we get back from spring break. It'll be the 5th time that we've met with our colleagues to work on the unwrapping of the higher learning standards and our curriculum mapping process. I want to thank you and everybody for your hard work on that. Some people are finished with the unwrapping process and are ready to get started with new areas and new steps. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in this video, and I'm excited to work with you on that. Where you're meeting, what to bring, what the plan is, what the goal is. You should already know all that, but if you do have any questions, send me an email or your principal, and I'll be glad to help you out. I know they would as well. Before we move on, I want everybody to know that there's a chance to win a book called Play Like a Pirate, Engage Students with Toys, Games, and Comics, Make Your Classroom Fun Again by Quinn Rollins. You can win this book. I'll have a question at the end of this video. You can have fun in your classroom and teach the Ohio Learning Standards as well. There's some great ideas in there. So listen for that question at the end of the video and you could win the book. I encourage you to start the day with the air test portal for those teachers who are administering the test or your content area is tested. So I encourage you to visit oh.portalairtest.org. Take a look in there. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Or go to chalk.com or go to chalk.com. I think there's some great content in there for both, and I'll talk about those now. To get into the ohportalairtest.org, it is not on the ODE's website. It's a separate site, and you can see at the bottom of this I have the URL bold. The opening page looks like this, and after a few questions, you'll go into a page that looks like this. There's some questions before it. There's two categories that I think are really important. First is students and families, and the second is teachers and test administrators. And you'll really want to use both. The students and family site has a student practice test and great resources and released questions and practice questions. There's all sorts of good review for the students inside of there. And that's in the student practice site, students and family site. The teachers and test administrators is a practice test that looks a lot like the real test. They log into it, but it doesn't count or anything like that, obviously. And it gives you the practice of that. And I think that's good for the teacher, and I think that's good for the student, because the more familiarity you have with it, the more at ease you'll feel and more natural it'll feel, just like any sport or club. Once into the student practice center, you'll have a test that looks like this. This is a 7th grade ELA test, and a few things at the top. You'll notice that it tells you what question that you're on out of how many. And it can be a little confusing because they only show you, like on this one, you can see there's only 9 questions off to the right, but in reality, there's 17 questions total. And so you'll want to explain that to the students, and you'll want to show them how to use each and every feature. Whether you're a language arts teacher, a math teacher, or any tested subject, your test has unique features and tools that need to be explained, and the students need to know how to use those. And so, for ELA, there's a highlighting tool. Walk the students through each tool and give them some ideas on how they could use that and practice with it. And so going into the test at least once or twice beforehand will build a lot of confidence and show the students what the tests look like and the tools and features that they have. For this one, I would point out to the students that the paragraphs are numbered and why that's numbered, because if you look at the first question, it says, read the paragraph from passage 1. They'll need to know what passage 1 is and refer to certain paragraph numbers. That's a helpful tool. Not every student knows that, and it should be taught to them. Down at the bottom, students may not be familiar that there are multiple pages. There are some students who may look at this passage and think that's all they have to read. But looking down at the bottom of the screen where the arrow is now, you'll see there are 4 other pages. And they need to know that, and they need to know how to navigate through it and go back and highlight the text, how to get the book view of it, All the tools that they have for this one has masking notes, line reader, zoom in and out. They may have some needs why they'd want to do that. You can see there's a tutorial. They can mark questions for review. They can actually see their answers. I think it's great to go into the test and do a practice, not even to score it, just to get familiarity with it for good practice. And some of the questions have different features, like some are check boxes with more than one answer, so that could be useful as well. I would show all the features to them. And really the point is to familiarize the students with the online items and practice tests so they can see the release questions and practice test questions, learn how questions are asked, and see the different types of questions, and navigate through the online testing system, learning all the tools, all the features, and getting familiar with it. So I think that's all very handy. Also, you could, if you're not in a tested area, then you may consider looking at the tutorials on chalk.com. And so I've logged into Chalk here. In the top right-hand corner, you click on the three bars, in the top left-hand corner, and you'll see a drop-down menu that pops up on the left-hand side. And down at the bottom, kind of a pink color there, you can see there are tutorial videos that you can watch. I recommend watching one of those. Okay? If you're finished unwrapping the Ohio Learning Standards, please link your templates to the district document. I shared it in the last email. If you need access to that document, I'll be happy to share that with you again. But it's one document, has all of our buildings, all of our content areas, and you'll hyperlink those and link them to your maps. And we have quite a few that are already linked, and we want to have all of them linked soon. One of the other things that you can work on if you're finished with the unwrapping of the standards is creating a curriculum overview. And it just simply serves as a quick one-sheet glance where and when in the year that a standard is taught and assessed. And it loosely aligns the resource that you're going to use to help for that instruction. And you budget all your standards. Every standard that you have in your content area, you spread them across the year based on your reasons why you think that's why you would do it in that quarter or that week, the amount of time that you would spend on it. So one I created in the past, I've shared with you that you can use as a template, or you can make your own, is something like this. Down across the left-hand column, you can see there's 8 weeks there. If we went one more deep, you'd see there's 9 weeks. And then across the top, there are 4 different quarters. You can see the different subjects. You can see the different types of standards highlighted by color. And then super short blurbs of what the focus of the week is and what resource you're using. You can see there I'm using the novel The Outsiders, okay, and generally what they're doing. So it's just a really 30,000-foot view of the year of where all the standards would go, and that's helpful. It's kind of hard to put together until you actually build the units, but I think it's a great place to start so you can kind of mentally prepare yourself for budgeting all the standards. The maps are never done. They're a living document. We're always trying to add to those. So earlier in the year, we were focused on those first 4 columns. Now, many people are ready to move on to the other 4 columns, which include the overview, which also includes the resources that you're using. And those are just notes that you're making, best practices that you found, and notes and comments. You wouldn't fill out every spot, but you'd start capturing ideas and talking to your colleagues about, what are some of the hardest standards or the most important standards, and how do we do those well, or how could we do those better? What resources do we use? How much time should we spend on? Lots of questions to be answered. And so we're focusing on these 4 columns now. Down at the bottom, you can see that there is a overview template that you can use, and there's also an area to begin designing your first unit. And this are some of the things to consider in the unit building. Okay, so all your grade level information, and then we look at the essential question. If you've done any SOL training, essential questions are important there as well. You might include or would want to include pre-assessments, what materials you already have, what you think might need to be made, and then all the other areas. So I would go over this. It's on your template with your colleagues. I think you'll find that really helpful, and that is a great way to start building your curriculum map. This is the actual mapping process by building units. All right. And building units with the standards this summer, I'm going to be teaching a class through Ashland. You're welcome to join in. It's UBD, Understanding by Design, and it's we're going to do a book study on this book right here by Wiggins and McTighe, and it's all about backwards design, starting with the standard and building a unit that teaches those standards. And so you got to do some vertical alignment with other grades on what standards you're going to focus on. Now, we teach all the standards, but which ones do we really focus on for mastery at our grade level in our content area? And these are important vertical alignment conversations to have that some areas are getting ready to begin. And so then you start with a grade assessment. And we could spend a lot of time talking about what a grade assessment is and why we would want to have common assessments. And I'll be working with some grade levels on Monday on just that, who are ready to talk about assessments and doing the backward design. And once you have created an assessment that you consider as a good assessment, you work backwards and you figure out what will be taught and what the students will demonstrate that they can do, what the activities are. And that is your unit that you're building. And so this is a very simplified version of it. But again, it's great conversation. It's important conversation that you can actually start implementing with your design. Okay? So I recommend going into the air test portal, getting familiar with that, looking at your plans coming back from break about when you can take the students into that for practice. I recommend going into chalk.com, watching a tutorial video to learn how that tool can help you build units that teach the Ohio Learning Standards, that engage students, that make the material relevant, etc. It's a great tool. I wouldn't recommend it if it was not. Also, you could start building your overview template, which I explained, and then you could actually start the unit design. And if you need help with any of this, I would love to work with you. So that's great. So did you watch this video? You could win this book right here, Play Like a Pirate. And you got to answer this question. How many certified teachers are there in Port Clinton City School District? It's a number. So email me a number of how many certified teachers you believe are in our school district. That's it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please contact me. And I want to thank you again. I hope you have a great spring break, or I hope you had a great spring break, depending on when you watch this video. Thank you.